is Bill Gagliardi, William Joseph Gagliardi. Everybody knows me as Gags. And I'm a musician primarily, musician. And I've done quite a few different things throughout the years. I was in the Navy, played in a band. I can't figure out how I did that, but I did. 1965, and went into the music school, and then I got stationed in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico, the band down there was the U.S. Navy Steel Band. We played steel drums. So our duty was to play steel drums, and we performed for all these big parties all over different bases. We went down to Trinidad twice for the carnival. We played down there. Played in Guantanamo. The only time I was on a ship was they took us by a destroyer, I believe it was, to Gitmo. We disembarked, and then we played some concerts there, and then we got back on the ship and went up the Mississippi to New Orleans. And from there we got off the boat again and played in the Mardi Gras. We were on a float. It was great. It was great. It was a good time. And I don't know if you want me to elaborate on that at all, or.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No, that's
well, yeah. And then from there we took a trip across the country. We went out to California, played up and down the coast. Another trip we took, we went to most of the islands down there. We played, which unfortunately now it's destroyed pretty much. Puerto Rico, it's a shame. But and then when I was down in Puerto Rico, we had a lot of free time, so I used to go down to the Condado area, which was all the entertainment, and I hooked up with a lot of musicians down there. So when I did finally get out, I played with the bands down there. Played with the nightclubs. I played in the big bands down there in the shows. That was the time, the heyday for Puerto Rico, where you had big names come down, backing up big names, and then played with the Latin bands, which was great. You know, it was a whole different experience for me. A guy coming from New York, Staten Island, New York, and he would get an opportunity like that. And then from there, I met someone. There's a lot happened during that whole period, but I lived in a black room. I painted the whole room black, and people used to like to come. Musicians used to like to come. They used to come and hang out. And I had great record collection, and when we'd go to the PXs, I might get the records from there. So everybody was saying, "Wow, Billy, where'd you get all these records?" All kinds of music was coming out at that time. It was being recorded. All international stuff, and Ravi Shankar and Coltrane and everything. It was just an abundance of such great music at the time. And from there, I met a woman from Norway, and things were getting a little hectic at the times down in Puerto Rico. It was time for a change, and I went back to Norway with her. Her name was Turid, 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 and she helped me out a lot because I got into being a vegetarian and stopped drinking and doing all the other stuff that musicians do, and went back to Norway. And I had no intention of staying, but I wound up staying anyway, and played at the jazz festival over in Molde. Played with a lot of great musicians, but I said, this is bringing me right back to where I was, what I'm trying to get away from. And I wound up not pursuing it in that respect. I was still playing. I always kept my instrument with me, having my flute with me all the time. Did a lot of hitchhiking, traveled all over. I've been in parts of Norway that Norwegians have never been in. Went up to the Arctic Circle, up to Trondfjell, and I lived on a goat farm. We moved up to a goat farm up in Telemark, and there's two people who lived there, the Ingeborg Hegeris and her husband Christopher. And she showed me how to milk goats. I milked 22 goats every morning. We get out there and they take the goats up into the hills. I take my flute with me, and I had been interviewed a few times while I was there. by the local newspapers that come looking, because it was like something unique at that time. You know, you're talking 1969, and it was a big transition period then. The whole music changed. The whole world was changing. It seemed at that time. You know, you had this revolutionary thing going on with non-violent revolutionary, even though there was a lot of violence going on. But for my path, it was more of getting into meditation and spiritual side of it, and herbs and healing, and you know, the whole thing of changing lifestyle. That there's something within us that we're born to fulfill, and you don't know what it is sometimes. But it was right. It was hard at times. It was really hard at times, because doing all kinds of menial work. Worked up in Omdal outside Sheehan. Was on a farm up there with this Roloff Omdal, his name was, and he had big forest. And I would go with him and shaw down the trees, cutting all the branches off the trees with the axe, walking along there, and then they would pull the logs down and put them in the stream that went down. It was a big river went down, and they bring them to that. And then there was a big factory, paper mill factory actually, I think it was, that they would go down. It was down closer to Sheehan. That's the home of Henry Ibsen, you know. And I did a lot of different things at that particular time. And from there, I was preparing myself to go to India. I worked in a brewery over there too. Mm-hmm. Great beer, but I wasn't drinking at the time. Oh. But I used to love going in the morning. It was that smell of the stale beer from the day before. It was the Sheen Brigady. And I was preparing myself for something. And I came in contact with this teacher from Norway. His name was Charan Singh. It's up in the northern part of India, in the Punjab. So I was saving up my money. Turin and I were going to go. And I had to quit the job. I also worked in a Freemason's kitchen, too, for giving meals to the people that needed, homeless and all of that. It's a beautiful time. They had the Viglands Park up there. With a huge, beautiful park with all these figures of human beings in different positions. And it's just amazing, astrologically, the way it's set up. I sat up there one time. I was sitting up in the back, looking over the whole park, and it was with a few Norwegian friends there. And I just could calculate everything, how it was set. And they say, "How do you know that?" I says, "It's right there. It's right before our eyes, you know." And I had been involved with a lot of the esoteric teachings, and it all comes down into something. It all kind of gels into one road eventually. And I was going to go across Europe by truck. There was a trucking company, and I had made arrangements with them. I was going to go through and then go down through Europe, through Scandinavia, through Europe, and then it would be over into Turkey and Pakistan. But there was problems going on at that time, and it wasn't really safe for me to go that way, and my money was starting to run out. So I actually had to fly, which I wanted to do it the other way, but that's the way to go. And plus, I couldn't get the passport, visas to go through these different countries at that time. Anyway, I wound up going to India, and it was just something else. It's just amazing. It's amazing to see how humanity can flourish on so little. And here I see them working and doing, and they're on meager diets, but it's enough. It should show people in the West here like overconsumption. We don't need to consume that much. We need to be a little lighter, maybe. And things are, anyway. Took the train. They have the old trains. Trains are loaded. People on top of the trains. And I went up to Delhi. To the Punjab, to the Dera, it's called up there, and Beas. It's in Beas, part of the Punjab, And there was a lot of people from all over the world were coming there to become. And you stay there, they have guest houses for you, and you participate. Uh, Doing, they call Seva. You helping people, you help making something. They were actually making a eye clinic at the time. And so you're carrying these baskets of dirt on your head and moving it from one area to another. And it's just the atmosphere of being within it. So we're doing this work, and Master is sitting there. He comes out and watches what they call it the seva. You're doing this work, and to see him, they call it dajan. Like you're invisible. He's not pretending to be anything more. He's saying what we are is the same thing. It's opening up that the light that's within us itself, opening up that eye, like it says in the Bible, when thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be filled with light. And in the yoga tradition and all, it all talks about the tisratel, the pineal gland, the eye, the third eye, and all. And so the system, the way that he teaches the yoga is called the Raj Yoga, Surachab Yoga. In other words, it's the audible live stream, which is around us all the time. We're hearing noises. You're hearing noises in your. Then you put your fingers in your ears. You hear this flow going all the time. The thing is, it's kind of bypassing the lower forms of yoga. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but the hatha yoga and the pranayama yoga. But like he would say, you breathing naturally, I'm breathing naturally. To concentrate on it. It's to focus here, bypassing going through all this austerities of trying to suppress your sexuality, trying to fasting and sitting in certain positions and all. It's really not necessary, because we're there when we're born. It's there. Mm-hmm. We're there. That's our focal point. And it's distractions, all these distractions that are around us constantly, which is part of the norm. We live in New York here, and it's all part of the norm. So we take it for granted that this is way. But sometimes if you go out up into the hills or the mountains, or just go out into the park where you could be by yourself or sit by a lake or something, and let everything just subside. Let it all just come down. Like one of the sayings there is it's like looking in a pond of water, and if the water's rough, you can't see reflection. But if the water's calm, you look in, you can see the reflection. You can see, and that's the same. We're going inside, looking, reflecting within. It's not performing miracles or anything. It's coming back to ourself, and then dealing with that. I think that plays a big part in my approach to music, because I've always, I play big bands, small bands, combos, whatever. But my forte, my thing that seems to be so natural, is to play free. It's just it comes out. It just comes out, and when you meet other musicians that are in that same thing, it just makes such great music. It just, as far as we're hearing it, but that's what that comes down to, as far as the music part of it. And I mean, I went also to Hashrapur, the Vedic Institute, and where they still have the Vedas. There's old scriptures in there, and I was fortunate to walk around this building with all this knowledge is in there. The teacher there, the master there, takes his walk around every evening, mm-hmm. and you just walk around with him. You want to ask something, you could ask something, but what is there to ask? It is what it is, and it's just absorbing that whole feeling. What I was going to say earlier about with the master sitting, coming out to watch the people work. There was another Westerner there, a guy, he was from the United States, and he's looking. He goes like this to me down digging. He goes, "Master's over there. Master's sitting there." I said, "Wait, oh, okay." And I just put the thing down, and I walked up, and they're like, I walked over to him, and as I got closer to him, I just felt this. Slow down, Billy. Slow down. And by the time I approached him, I said, thank you for letting me, thank you for letting me be here, you know. And then he would give at nighttime he would come and speak about whatever you had a question. You'd ask people ask questions like that, but it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful world out there. There's so much that we have as human beings. You see this chaos that's going on now. I think it's happening for a reason. I feel it's really happening for a reason because we've come to a point we need to make a change. We need to say there's something more to life than all this material stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I got material stuff all around me here, but it's not the center of who we are because we come in empty-handed and we leave empty-handed. Can't take anything with us but that. If there is reincarnation and karma and reincarnation. If it is, it is. If it's not, it's not. Christians basically are saying the same thing. When they're saying, like Christ says, unless you be born again. It doesn't mean by dipping you in the water that you're born again. Okay, I'm saved now. I was raised Catholic. That's a real smart move with them because you could go out and rob a bank or kill somebody and then go to confession on Saturday and you're forgiven, 10 Hail Marys, 10 Our Fathers, and go and sin no more. And that's what Jesus says also, go and sin no more. Basically he's saying, when they're talking about these miracles, he's helping somebody. He had this knowledge. Jesus was gone from the time he was 12 until he came back when he was 30, And if you look at that whole, not to get sidetracked here, but it's just so important that the beginning of the story with Jesus, the birth, you had these wise men, these magi, coming to see him, coming to pay homage to a king, to somebody they looked at. Was he reincarnated? Was he something great? How did they know? Well, a star. Yeah. Well, if you look at like what the Tibetans do, they do the same thing. One of the Dalai Lamas died, and they set out to find where he reincarnates. And sometimes it could be in Oshkosh, it could be anywhere. But there's the recognition, and we all have that. I would imagine we all have it when we're children. There's this sense of familiarity with certain things. There's these dreams and stuff, and recognition of people or ways of life, or remembering a life before. And some people are able to, we hit the age of 7, like they say, the age of reason, and then we kind of drifts off. Oh, that's fantasy. You're just imagining that. But some people they do, and they follow through, and they say, oh, wow, that person did exist before. So I'm not trying to get too esoteric about the whole thing, but it's kind of really what we're doing. That's more important than, for me, it's more important, I think. And I see so many people seeking. At that time, in the 60s, there was this whole movement going on where, people were seeking something more than, we had the assassination of President Kennedy. Then, you had, you're talking now after World War II, the atrocities, the amount of millions and millions of people just annihilated, and it's something there that we have to learn from that, or maybe we don't learn from it. I mean, it is, but individually we're responsible for ourselves. If one feels the urge to follow a certain way, we're not following anybody. We're cutting our own path. But the thing is, like somebody's before us and they go, hey, come this way. And sometimes we go and say, no, that's not for me, Or sometimes we go and say, oh, you got something there. Okay, I'm going to let you off here now. And then you continue on your way, And when I was up in the Himalayas, I went up into the Himalayas, up in the Dalhousie. It's in the foothills of the Himalayas. And the Tibetans were up there at that time. There was a lot of the refugees and all. So there's another taste of something there too. With that, you have all these rituals and the chanting and those things are meant to bring us in tune with this here. And the thing with that, I was sitting up there sitting up in the mountains. Sun was going down, and it wasn't like I went. I went right into the sun was like an opening. we was all this light, and I was looking right at it, and I went into it, and it was just light, just pure. It was just, it's like being held by your mother or something. It was just so beautiful. And that stayed with me. Right after that, one of the villagers brought me to this elderly man that lived in that lived in a little village part there. It wasn't a fortune teller, or it wasn't like getting your palm read or anything. He was speaking in the local language there, and the fellow that brought me there was interpreting it for me. He held my hand. He held my hand like just like this, and he started talking to me. He started telling me about my life. This guy, I didn't know him from Adam, but maybe I did know him from Adam. Maybe that's the connection. Maybe we do have that we're all connected to one thing. Call it what you will. But he started telling me about my life and my family and people. And he said, "You're in the right place. Your heart is in it. You're sincere in what you're seeking." He says, "Now you must go back." He said, "Now you must go back, because what you need now is what you left." So to me, that means that all the turmoil I was having growing up as a kid and getting in trouble and arguing with my father and disagreeing with everything and just kind of being rebellious, whatever. It showed me you got to go back, and there it is. Because he says, "There's where you karma lies. There's where the things that you need to learn are. You could stay here. You could stay there. You could be a yogi and sit under the tree and do your, But that was where it was, and so that I carry with me throughout my life. And I look at things, situations that I'm in. Sometimes I get pissed off about things too. I get angry about shit and all. But then you take a second look, and the longer it goes on, you start to understand. In the beginning, when I first came back, I wanted to share it with everybody. And I come home, and there's the guys I grew up with, and everybody hanging out at the bar, and I'm up there. Now I don't drink anymore, and I know. And then after a while, you start, yeah, I have a drink. What the hell? And you wind up, when in Rome, there was the Romans too, And so I kind of just went back in it because to me, I looked at it like, well, I'm not going to be able to share this if I'm here and they're, still there. So it's not that I'm better than them and all. It's just that I just have different experience that I went through that I could see is beneficial, for those that want it, and it winds up that pretty much everybody wants something that we have to offer, in the sense of that, okay, wow, I never thought of that, or just our actions and our emotions and our response to one another tells us everything about who we are and who they are, and we see the similarities. There's a sympathetic nervous system there that makes that connection, and sometimes it doesn't, and so you tend to stay away from that unless you want to get into a fight, And I had a lot of that growing up, so I got no problem with that shit. but music is the meditation, and if you're talking, when I was going back earlier, I was talking about the Sorat Chab yoga. It means the yoga of the audible life stream. So what are we doing? We're listening, learning to listen to ourselves inside. It doesn't have all this yap, shab, bop. It's not even words. It's just you doing the right thing. We know what to do. We know that. A lot of people ignore it or try to shy away from it. You've seen a lot of the stuff that's going on, political nonsense, church nonsense, whatever. It's more about them and not really taking into consideration. I mean, you hear people talking about the Christians. Well, go help somebody. That's what Jesus says. He says, what does Jesus say? Sell everything, get rid of everything, and share with one another. Be there for one another. That's the main thing. My mom, right before she died, we had a great opportunity because she did die, and then they put her on artificial to keep her alive, put a heart pump in her and everything, but it was gone. It was going on. It was over 2 weeks. They had her out, and it was just a horrible experience because you're watching the woman that brought you into. My mother was so much fun. She had a hard life growing up, but she was just so much fun. Made the kids laugh, all the grandchildren. As growing up, she always had a song. As bad as things would get at times. Coming from a family of 6, and she was great. But what I was going to say was she did come out of it. They took her off the respirator and the artificial stuff, and she was there. She was sitting on the edge of the bed when we came in. And she was like, oh, it's so nice here. Movie star wiped my ass. She was talking about one of the nurses, and she was like a little kid. It was like in there. Then they wouldn't keep her in there anymore, so they transferred her into another room. They figured she's going to go. It's only a matter of time. She held on, and it was great for us because we had the opportunity to be kids again with her. We had the opportunity to be kids with her again, to be children. We were getting in bed with her and having. In fact, one night we were taking turns staying up all night with her. And one night, me and my brother John, we went to this local pizza place, this place called Lee's, and we got a pie. We brought some beers back and all. We had it in the room with her, and we gave her a pizza. And she had a little sip of beer, because that's the way. And we're laughing, It was great. But before she died, she got serious. She got very serious about it, and she said to us, "Keep your mouth shut, mind your business, be there for one another, learn the system." I just got a chill saying that now because I knew what she meant by that, because she never wanted to be in the hospital. Never once. She used to tell me, "Billy, don't let them put me in or a nursing home," all the time. She'd call me up. I spoke with her every day. No, don't let them up. And sure enough, that's what happens. They wanted to go in, and then they were going to transfer her to a nursing home. So she goes, "This is bullshit." She goes, but she said, keep your mouth shut, mind your business, be there for one another, because it's all bullshit. And that made so much sense. It just made so much sense, and it's true. It really is. Got to be there for one another. See, Peru, this is called a cane. There's no piece in here like on the mouthpiece you're blowing it over. It's open on this end here, and you're blowing over the top. It's got a little hole in the bottom. But they played in a way, but they use that vibrato feel. It's a different playing on this than it is with that, because you're using the bottom part of your lip to cover this part of the mouthpiece. It's beautiful. What you gotta do it. And some friends of mine were going down to the recruiter, and I said, "Yeah, I'll go with you." And I went down. I had no clue what I was going to do or anything. I don't think I had the aptitude to take anything seriously, this and that. And I got on a train with them. They swore us in up downtown Manhattan, and we boarded the train, went up to Great Lakes. I didn't know. It was like an adventure. It was an adventure at the time, So, and then I happened to, you're meeting guys from all over the country, and I met one of these guys. We started talking. He said, "What are you in for?" He says, "I think it's 10 to life." No, but he said he was going to. He was in for music. He was going to go to music school. And he says, "Whoa, I didn't know that." I said, I play instrument." "Oh, well, you see, go and see if you can take your audition for the recruit band. This way you get out of doing a lot of the other stuff that they go through in boot camp." And sure enough, I passed the audition, and took me out of the unit I was in, put me in with all the other guys. A lot of them going to the music school, and so that changed right there. Like that. And then I find out I could take an audition to go to the school. It was down in Little Creek, Virginia. That's where it was. The Army and the Navy shared the same school down there, and it was also the UDT were down there too. The underwater demolition teams, they were down there too. We used to watch them running back, running all over the place with the giant rafts on their head, and they dropped them off out into the Chesapeake Bay, make them swim back and all. Yeah, it's a long journey, but it's like it's right here. I mean, I could tell you pretty much every detail, but that would take 70 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no one's got 70 years.
No, that definitely did though. I mean, because I was troubled. I was looking for something there, and I was getting, especially like I say, going into the service, you meet guys, they turn you on to this thing and that thing, and this Edgar Casey. When I was down in Virginia Beach, we used to go down there. Edgar Casey, the Research and Enlightenment Center down there, and when we weren't going to the bars, and it was good. So there was always that path, and getting involved with the Paramahansa Yogananda and all of this other reading, because I never joined anything. I never was a groupie type of thing where I just put the feelers out, and I said, that makes sense. Wow, that's something new there. They get into all the esoterics like Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophist Society and the Rosicrucians. I studied with them for a while. They all got these little things here. And it's people make a whole life out. Like I said, like I went to see this guru in India. I was writing to him when I was in Norway, and he'd write back, and thing, and I was invited to come. It wasn't like I had to pay a fee or anything. I had to pay for my airfare to get over there, but it wasn't a freeloader. I made sure to take care. Yes, they have lentils and rice and stuff like that, which is sufficient. But I know people still to this day. That was how many years ago that they still follow that. They still go to these satsangs, these meetings like that. And I just had a discussion with one of them recently. I said, "How come you don't go anywhere?" He told me what to do. Mm-hmm. I got to keep hearing it. Show me the method of meditation. And that's it. Try not to sow new seeds, like new karma. Because just try to. I guess I must have one of them told me I have these good. They call synchik karmas from the past that allows me to be who I am at this time. But I think I've accumulated a bunch of new karmas though. But I seem to be able to pay them off, where they kind of you learn how to balance things out. And I think a big part of it is giving. Being there for one another and making other people feel good, especially younger people. You got, there's a lot of confusion for them out there. I mean, they're relying a lot on what they're seeing online and now with the Facebook and all of this here. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not good. It's indifferent actually. It's like going bowling. You go and
Just like going bowling.
yeah. Yeah, fortunately, I mean, hopefully you come to a time when you have your own bowling shoes. You don't have to rent them because who knows whose foot was in there before you, F sharp, major seventh. LSD, doing peyote, LSD, but LSD especially, we used to get the LSD 25. And that's just like you could go in and out of your body like it's, you know, like you're dreaming in and out, you know, and everything opens up. You see everything clearly. And the whole spiritual thing made more sense with that. I mean, I wasn't one for going in the clubs with the psychedelic stuff like that. I like to go into the woods or down by the ocean, or be in that vibe, and you could feel it. You could feel the trees moving. You could feel the ocean. I mean, one time being out on a reef, and holding on to the reef, and there's the crabs coming up to your face, and you're part of it. You become part. It gives you the understanding of gave me the understanding, or the comfort of being part of that. That sense of people say, well, you're in danger. Don't go near this, something like that. But if you're part of it, then there are no predators, you know, unless you're maybe out in the jungle. But even when I was in India, I was in areas there where was one of the temples up there was all these monkeys around, you know, and people say, oh no, don't go near them, because they get vicious, they'll rip you apart, you know. But I sat there with them, and they come around, and I was one place I was down in by the Bayas River there, and it's this little clearing there, and there was they say there's cobras in there, you know. I'm not a snake charmer or anything, but I wasn't aware of it. I probably wouldn't have went down there if I do. But even when I was going through these places in India and these little villages and stuff like that, I never felt any fear. I felt comfort. I felt like I was part of it, and I think that's one of the things. Like I say, with when I was being under the influence. I mean, it's just natural stuff, natural substances, you know. I mean, that a lot of people freak out. A lot of people can't handle it. It's not for everybody. And I think that's where the mistake happens, you know. I mean, today you have a lot of people taking all this chemical stuff it's dangerous. It screws their mind up, especially you're going to be around in the traffic or city or something like that. You know, that's not the place to do anything like that. And you need guidance. I always felt that since I was a child that I was being guided. There was somebody watching over me. My mother always taught us that about the guardian angel. You know, that's a big part of our life growing up with that. You know, and I had visions and things when I was a younger child, but there comes a point then, and then it's like you got to go to school. You got this. You get yelled at for this and that. You're not doing this right and that, and all of that starts getting in the background stuff. You know, so you kind of start losing that sense. So that part of feeling one with, you know, I mean, look how we come into the world. We're attached to our mothers, got the umbilical cord. So there is this, you know, in the esoteric teaching, they talk about the silver cord, you know. And I actually had experienced that, you know, with you. We are connected with something. You know, it's like these lights. It's connected. It's connected to a wire. All right, it's connected to something. You can't see electricity, but it's doing something. It's manifesting as light. It's the same thing with us. People, the spirit. We talk about the spirit. All cultures talk about the spirit. You could equate it to like the electricity. You know, it's coming from someplace. Turn the light on, though, you don't know where it's coming from unless you go follow the line out. The lines are the thing. It's coming from a power plant someplace. It's some copper wires and everything turning, and it's making this thing an invisible thing. I mean, it's you know. We use things today. We're walking around with cell phones and computers. You ask the phone something, it gives you an answer. You know, so we're going more towards that telekinetic sense of what is that telepathy thing. It's man is always known as there. You know, I mean, sacred fire. You know, you say, because without the sun, we're nothing. There would be no earth. We wouldn't be talking right now. You know, so it's that. And this thing about worshiping, you know, the Egyptians worshipped the sun. No, they respected it, because without it, they're not. And that's the difference. That's the thing. Is people say, "Oh, that's paganism." No, the misinterpretation of it. You're not seeing it for what it is. You know. Oh, you don't need a light? We'll turn the light up. Okay. So the light is within us. We are the light. Christ says that. Says that in the Bible. You are the light. You don't go hiding it under a bushel there. You let it shine. You let it shine. But he also says, don't be giving it away in the sense that you got something of value. You don't like he uses the parable of the pearls to the dogs or to the swine. The swine, they're just going to gobble it up. They don't realize the value that man puts on it for something. And so with the Eastern teachings, the Bhagavad Gita, especially the Bhagavad Gita for me, I think there's so much in there, so beautiful the way it's placed, and the Vedas and all these scriptures. I was able to make the parallel between the Bible, and like I had said earlier about the Magi coming, the kings. So if you look at it, they gave him gold, frankincense, and myrrh, three valuable essence, sacred oils or valuable oils, and the gold. So he was rich from when he was a child. But I'm not trying to be sarcastic about it. But if you look at it, say, well, yeah, it's right there. So he was given gifts to go continue his path, to become the way. And people say, oh, he did miracles. No, there's a lot of writings that equate that. He went back to India, went to the East. Even where the Magi came from, they came from Persia, the Zoroastrians. Okay, so this knowledge, wisdom exists way beyond our imagination. You see, they got these shows on there showing all ancient aliens and all this. Well, they still don't know how they built those pyramids. They could make a cell phone, but they can't make. We could with all the equipment we have today. We couldn't even move one of those stones. There's something so deep there, and there are people all through history that have, look at our dollar bill. You got a pyramid with an all-seeing eye on top of it. What's that telling us? The people that founded this country took it over, but they set up their thing. They were Masons. They were all into this stuff that they weren't allowed to practice in the old world there over in Europe. So they come over here and set up their thing. It's so deep that it's simple. And I think sometimes if we overload ourselves with all of these different ideas, you're confused. It's like somebody saying, no, do it this way. No, do it this way. Do it this way. Sometimes you go, and bring ourselves back to the center. Nobody owns that. Nobody owns that. Nobody can put the claim on it. Oh, this is our system. This is pranayama yoga. Yeah. Those are teachings. Those are the people that have books and stuff. Yes, we can learn from others. That's how we learn this world. But there's not that's not for everybody. It's not. It's just no way, because everybody did that. Nothing will get done. The garbage has got to go out. I'm meditating. Don't bother me again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got one more question.
Go ahead.
And it's kind of experimental.
All right.
So, for you, making a documentary here.
Yeah.
What is it about? I mean,
it's about.
What would you want it? What do you think? Like, with all the information we've talked about today.
Yeah, which is a fraction. But I try to get to basic points. Key stops, like you got to stop for gas on the way to California, so you got to stop at this gas station and Hess one out there, and But it's this is supposed to be what's happening today. This is what's happening right now, at this day here, and all and you're my nephew. You were a reincarnation from. I always called you were a Buddhist monk before. You do. You have there's something there. I mean, whether you believe it or not, whether it's just a bunch of malarkey. That's a Frank McCourt phrase from the old Irish. He was my English teacher in McKee. Frank McCourt. He wrote Angela's Ashes, Angela's
Sorry,
Ashes. You never heard of Angela's Ashes? And they made the movie out. But he was Irish family. It was a famous book. He wrote it. But he was my English teacher in McKay. And I was screwing up all the time. Actually, he failed me in English. He saw me. He saw me outside on the back of a motorcycle with a friend of mine. We used to go down to the liquor store. It was a liquor store down in the corner. We'd get a pint of pint of cheap wine, and anyway, the class had to write a composition. He says, "Write about what you like." He said, "Tell everybody." So I wrote about the avant-garde, about the Ornette Coleman and Coltrane and all that. That was going on at the time because I was, a teenager, but I was into it. I loved that stuff, you know. There was something there. There was just a connection with that. I always felt that. I'd go to the library down in St. George, and they had the records. You could take records out and get the record and listen, so I wrote the composition about that, and he called me after class. He goes, "Gagliardi, come over here." He goes, "Who wrote this?" I said, "I did." Then he started, because he lived in the village. It was part of that whole day, hung out in McSorley's and the jazz clubs. And it was part of that beatnik generation. It was a little before the hippie generation, and Kerouac and all of those writers and all that stuff was going on there. But so we started talking about it. And he took interest in me. Here's an adult that I'm making a connection with. He's a teacher, who becomes friends with your teacher, But it gave me something, At least here's something that I know. Here's something I feel a kinship with, Mathematics and all this other stuff you have to learn like that. I pass through like that. But if you don't have interest in something, you're not going to learn it. And if you say you can't, this is hard, then it's hard, and you're not going to learn it. But if you love something, it makes you feel good. That's the indicator. That's our barometer. This feels good. That's like every time I go out to play. I don't care what kind of gig it is. I go out and play, and I feel good. Whether it's a two-piece. In fact, I got to do a cocktail hour coming up next week. They just want me to play sax. Usually I'll play piano or something playing. And they just no, Billy, why don't you just play sax? So I play sax. And it's just. It's just I don't want to say gift. I mean, it's just part of my makeup, part of what makes me me, And I've been, like I say, I've been fortunate to do it all these years. As far as what's going on right now, we're sitting here and we're sitting in the recovery. This room here, we try to bring things back because, Joanne, my wife's, because I was just going to let it go. We replaced the burners and everything. She goes, "No. You got to have that. You got to have that room. You have," and sure enough, she was right. So I said, "Do it. I think I'd make it work. I continue working on my music. Can we continue writing, and playing and studying constantly. It's constant. And the more you open up with anything you're doing, you're getting into films and like that. You love it. You love what you're doing, and you don't know where it's going to lead, but it's leading somewhere, and you're going in that direction. So more or less, it is going to go in that direction, As musicians say, they play. I have a friend of mine. I've known him since Puerto Rico. He's out in California. We played together so much back then, and we're still friends to this day. He's playing out the movie scores, Star Wars, all this. He's playing behind them, and all this stuff. And he travels with all these big names like that, and that's was for him. Roy Campbell, what he does is his thing. The Grateful Dead, Jerry's gone now, but they manage and are still going to get a crowd. The Beatles, Pink Floyd, whatever. Bob Dylan is still going. You're just talking about the documentary, the band. It's great stuff. The only thing that always, I don't say it makes me sad, but it kind of does something. It's when the gig is over. When the gig is over, the beautiful part of playing with other musicians is the hang. That's quintessential. That's quintessential for making good music. You have fun, you have a laugh, you have a few drinks together, smoke a joint, whatever. You have, but you're making that connection. The musicians are on this other plane of consciousness, and then you pack up your horn, you pack up your guitar or whatever, and then you got to go home. You wait for next time, and that's sort of it's the same thing. And there's the meditation, because when you're playing, you're in that zone. I'm just in that zone. I just it just feels right. Everything, there's no contradiction about it. There's nobody telling you no. You're just doing what you do, and it don't matter whether you're doing it in India or Honduras or Puerto Rico or California or whatever. You're in that zone, and that's nowhere, but it's everywhere. Everywhere, you're right there. The thing is, it's like when you sit in meditation, and then you got to come out of it. A lot of people struggle with meditation. They think they're supposed to be doing something. The whole thing with the mantra, doing the mantra, or you have the music that goes on. It's just to bring us into that zone. Just to bring us into that zone. Same with prayer. Prayer is talks about it in the Old Testament a lot, even about meditation, about meditating. And he went to meditate. And Isaiah went and meditated. And when someone dies, it's referred to as giving up the ghost. So there's something there. There's something definitely there. And whether it is or it isn't, I love it. It helps me get through the day. Helps me get through my life. With some people. And that's it. Like right now, this is happening. And it was supposed to be for 5 minutes, and it's turned out to be 5 hours. But it seems like 5 minutes.